Greetings to our National Ministry Leader and to our National Ministry Administrator, all our pastors and our wives, our executive. Greetings to you and thank you for this opportunity for the Board of Governors to share with you this morning. I'm Yolanda Ford, and as you know, I serve on the Board of Governors, and I'm also a member of the Beacon Valley Baptist Church in Mitchells Plain, Western Cape. I'm a compliance practitioner by trade, so this compliance work very much falls within my scope. I must just say, Mark, I went to buy this mouse yesterday so that I cannot have nerves not navigating. And I gave Mark a royal time, and now I don't have anything to put this dongle in. But we'll manage. Yeah, if you don't have a mouse, then that's okay. But if you... Cool, thank you. It helps to ask, eh?
Thank you, Mark.
Mark is very organized, a true asset. Yes, so my job this afternoon or this morning is to talk about the Baptist Union compliance policy, and I thought it's best to introduce the policy in this manner.
The Ikali Tonga challenge the Springboks of South Africa in Pool B at the Rugby World Cup from the ancient city of Marseille.
What's up?
Just like that, Jaco Reinach is in. And South
Do you
Africa
remember
have their
this?
opening try.
Did we all get excited?
Advantage for South Africa.
Didn't we love it? And that comes from someone who doesn't know rugby.
The young gun for South Africa will fire it in.
So the reason why I use this video is to demonstrate that compliance is very much like a game of rugby or any other game. When you watch the game, you see well-trained and fit players. You see umpires in yellow jerseys. You see coaches. You see the green field with lines and poles. And all of those are very much necessary to enjoy a safe and fair game. So compliance is very much the same. So how does this relate to us? Compliance means following rules, laws, and guidelines. Without it, we are really going to be in a mess. So there's got to be rules, laws, and guidelines. And just like how you follow the rules in the game to play it fairly, organizations need to follow rules to operate fairly and legally. And we all need to work in those parameters. So what are the rules? I'm just going to briefly explain to you what compliance is before we go into the policy, so that we have a background as to why we have compliance and why we need a policy. So there are rules that apply to us. We are all citizens of South Africa, so the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa applies to us. It is meant to establish democracy. It's meant to protect human rights, and it's meant to protect equality and so on. Then we also have the Companies Act, and that regulates corporate entities like NPOs, and the Act also includes provisions for the management of company finances that we have heard about and still going to hear quite a bit about, financial reporting, auditing, and the distribution of profits. So we need the Companies Act to guide us in that way. NPOs, the Non-Profit Organization Act, there is an act like that. I've just asked, someone just came to ask me now, how do we go about registering? So there is an act that provides regulation and guidance on how to register as an NPO and to enjoy that legal status. If we want a PBO status, we have to comply with the income tax laws. And then if we want to appoint or employ people in our churches, in our association, we've got to comply with the Labor Relations Act. We can't hire and fire like we want to. You know that there's the CCMA that everybody runs to very quickly if something is not dealt with fairly. And then we also, if you are employed and you need to pay your tax, if you fall within a specific threshold for tax payments, then SARS applies to us as well. And then also something that has come not too long ago is the protection of personal information, and this is something that is still fairly new to us and that we are also working on. I know that the Baptist Union of South Africa is registered, and we do have our information officer, and that is Pastor Collins. So he's responsible for Patricia Eilenfeld. She's the registered information officer. Anyway, so then we have someone who is looking after our information. So just an example, I don't want to dwell on this. For example, if we have a Baptist handbook in the office, we are renting office space to another organization. They come into the office, they can take that information and they can sell it to a call center or someone, and there goes our information. We are aware of hackers that hack your system, and they hold your information ransom, and you've got to pay them money before you can release the information. So that's not only applicable to the office, but to our very local church as well. When I came in here, I saw that my cell number's also on here. No one asked me permission if they could put my cell number on here. I'm just being silly, but you know, that's how it goes. So there's lots that we need to do. And then also, lastly, this is not an exhaustive list. There's still many other laws that applies. We have our BU constitution and bylaws. And you know, that is what guides us to have a fair, safe, and enjoyable environment, BU operations, and so on. So the list can continue, but we are not going to dwell on that. I'm sure you've got the message. Consequences of non-compliance. If we break the rules, we have consequences. Just like in rugby, if you break the rules, you go to the sin bin. And I've just learned that. Something that I want to really bring to our attention, it's not a secret anymore. There's another piece of legislation, your FICA Act, Financial Intelligence Center Act, something that we need to be very much wary of, and that's money laundering. And the church nowadays gets used to launder money. Illegal money comes into the church, and then they wash it, and it goes out as legal money to a NGO or something. So it's literally, that's where the term comes from. They launder money, dirty money, clean it, and it goes out. Sorry? Go wash. Okay, so the consequences of non-compliance, if we break the rules, fines and penalties apply. There's reputational damage, legal trouble, or imprisonment. So reputational damage is sometimes more damaging than paying a fine of 100,000 rand or up to 10 million rand. It's all over in the newspaper. You know how it goes. People are waiting for Christian organizations to make a mistake so that it can be splashed in the social media. So these are all, why we're putting compliance policy together, is really to assist us and to help us do the right thing. And let me carry on and not get sidetracked. And how do we achieve compliance? We need to understand the rules. That's the first thing. We need to understand the rules. Now, if someone gives me the Companies Act, I remember when I first saw that Companies Act, it was daunting. And I didn't know start to finish, where to start or how to read it, and why is there commas and brackets and all these things. So we need to understand. We can't give a piece of legislation to a local church and say, yeah, go and do likewise. We need to assist. We need to break it down. We need to put policies in place that guide the churches, that guide our organization into complying seamlessly. Put it in a process. If we are talking about how we spend our money, etc., there is a financial policy in place, and I've seen on the website there's a missions policy in place. So it's the how. Gary was talking about the how earlier. How do we implement this? How do we implement our new structure? It's really a very tricky business, but you've got to do it in such a way that it forms part of a process and not an additional burden. And that's the secret to compliance. You don't make it an additional administration burden. So we will not make Pastor Colin's life, Pastor Greg's life difficult by adding administrative tasks where they sit with a clipboard, walk around the church, and tick all the boxes. We put it in a policy so that we can seamlessly comply to the various pieces of legislation. And then we train and we educate. And that is part of our role, where we train and educate. I don't know about the manpower, but we'll get there. That's the Lord will see to that. I'm not going to dwell on this because Stephen has already covered the governing body's roles and responsibilities. But I just want to say, if we do what we say we're going to do, then we will really have an ethical culture. And that is what we want, an ethical culture. I'm going backward here. So getting to the policy now, we understand that the Baptist Union is a Christian organization. And yes, we want to be good RSA citizens, but we are also citizens of the kingdom of God. And that is why there is a preamble that was put in place, and we got help from our seminary principals who's helped put this preamble in place. And a preamble is an expressionary statement to a document. So this statement is added to the policy document, and I'm just going to read it to you. It says, given our unwavering commitment to our statement of faith and Baptist principles, which emphasizes the lordship of Christ and the authority of God's word and adherence to its teaching, also our belief in obeying governmental authorities in all areas unless their directives conflict with the word of God and our Christian conviction, we hereby introduce this compliance policy as a means of supporting BUSA and our affiliated churches. If I can just, on this statement, say, yes, we need to comply with the law, but also when a law is brought out, there's a process of consultation. And we had a picture of Pastor Hugh Wetmore on the in memoriam, was it last night? And I worked so well with him on the Christian Citizenship Committee, where we influence the new marriage laws. So we as Christians need to stand up, use our voice, use the opportunity to influence the laws of this country. We are no longer living in a Christian-based country of the past, but we need to influence the law so that we as Christians don't lose our voice. So that's the preamble to compliance, and then I'm going to go into the actual policy now. And the policy has been WhatsApped to the group because it's pretty small. So it's been WhatsApped. So you can follow on your WhatsApp if you are unable to view on the screen. You want this? Can you just accept chat all changes? If you can just give us 5 minutes. A joke? You're asking the wrong person. made some changes though.
The Kali
Okay, you can watch the
Tonga
rugby. I'm
challenge
gonna
the
sort that
Springboks of
out.
South Africa in Pool B at the Rugby World Cup from the ancient city of Marseille.
Guys, I would say take a smoke break, but we don't do that. So,
Just like that, Yakurana.
but if you could just be patient with us, just going to sort this. It won't take long. Angela's thing to meet that earlier.
While they're busy sorting out that clip, just a request for all church planters after this session, immediately before we break for lunch, to meet with Pastor Angelo right here at the bottom of the stage. Thank you, in front of the stage. Thank you.
Just one more thing to add to that while we got this opportunity. If you have registered and you've received one of these green voting cards in the back, and you paid late, in other words, you only paid when you got here to register, just check it, your name is on the voters roll at lunchtime with Mark, please, man, if you don't mind. Or Jenny, my apologies. Mark's got enough work. Jenny, where are you? I can't see you from here. There we are, in that corner over there. Just make sure that your name is on the voters roll before we go into the voting of motions later on. Thank you.
Sorry, Mark, just checking, will it be on here as well? Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Mark's an absolute star. And thank you, Cliff, for your help as well. There we go. I think we can go much bigger, Mark. Can you just accept all track changes or remove? Oh, it says view only. Mark, I think it's okay. We'll use this version. It's fine. We'll use this version. You can just increase the font. Thank you. Assembly, so this document is not an approved document yet. If you can see the watermark, it says draft. So we are very much still in the consultation phase. The Board of Governors have seen this document in June. The national leadership I presented to them in September. And now today I'm presenting to you. And we are hoping to have this document approved by next year. And this document will then be referenced in the Baptist Union Constitution. Is that right, Pastor Colin? So, yep. And the policy life cycle, we want to at least have a look at every 3 years if there are any amendments that needs to be made to be in line with the president's term. Okay, there are a few, I'm not going to go through the whole document. There are a few items a few points I want to highlight to you. We've gone through the preamble, and then if we look at the introduction, so this policy basically outlines the principle, guidelines, and procedures to ensure that all BUA members, employees, and stakeholders uphold the highest standards of ethical conduct, legal compliance, and integrity. Compliance with all applicable laws, regulations, internal policies is crucial for maintaining the organization's reputation, credibility, and mission. So I've given you background to why we comply, and that introduction basically ties in with that. And then there are definition of terms within the document, so I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to go to the purpose. The purpose of the compliance policy is to establish a comprehensive framework for compliance with all relevant laws, regulations, and internal policies. So see all these regulations, all these laws that government give us, see it in one pot. And we are going to take that pot, take it piece by piece, and then practically implement it in the Baptist Union. But the policy is basically saying that this is what we are going to do, this is our position, and this is how we are going to work. So it's a principle-based document to say, in principle, this is how we're going to operate. So again, continuing the purpose, it's to promote an organizational culture that promotes integrity, transparency, and ethical behavior. So transparency is key. I believe in transparency. If people know, people will understand, and people will support, whether it's good news or bad news, as long as there is transparency. And if there are any risks, we're going to mitigate those risks by putting controls in place to ensure that those risks are mitigated. For example, I spoke about the POPIA Act earlier, about our personal information lying around in an office. We need to make sure that our personal information is secure. That is a requirement. How do you do it? We will have to sit with the office, and we're going to have to put measures in place. And the same is going to go down to our networks, and it will go down to our churches as well. We are going to give guidance in how to do all of this. And then on purpose as well, I was saying, I just went ahead of myself, that we provide guidance and procedures. And then the policy statement, I just want to pause on this. BUA is committed to observing all compliance obligations stated in this policy. Not some, but all. So there is a definite commitment to compliance. And then in the execution of the responsibility for the day-to-day administration and operation of BUA, the National Ministry Leader, with the support of the National Leadership Council, need to ensure that the organization is run effectively and efficiently. And you will remember Gary also spoke about that earlier. So I hope you can see how the pieces are being put together. It's very much early days. When I worked at Sanlam, it literally took a big organization at least 5 years to become mature in their compliance function. Now this is new to us, but we'll get there. We are going to get there. The scope, who does this policy apply to? The policy applies to the BUA Assembly, that's us, to all individuals associated with BUA, which is members, employees, volunteers, contractors, vendors, and partners. It's very important that we understand this. If we have a volunteer in our church and something happens to someone, something happens, that person who volunteered represented your church. So we need to make sure everyone we contract with, everyone that volunteers at your church, everyone that is a partner, whether it is an overseas partner or not, we need to ensure that that partner have good compliance and good governance practices before we want to deal with them. So there's a lot. There's really a lot, and my time is running out. I'm not going to go into the compliance structures because that's how we do it from a compliance point of view. The philosophy we've already covered. As Marcus said, this document is going to go around. I just need to leave time for questions. And I want to stop at the roles and responsibilities, and then we're going to end. So the roles and responsibilities, and I'm going to, Stephen have touched on this already, the Board of Governors govern the organization, so we make sure that there are policies in place in order to execute and ensure compliance. The National Ministry Leader, I feel very sorry for him, but he's responsible for compliance, full stop. So if anything goes wrong and the regulator, for example, SARS, comes to him and says, Mr. National Ministry Leader, the Baptist Union have not been paying tax for many years. We discover that some of the pastors are not paying tax and we need to fine the BU. So he will be the first one in the firing line. Okay? Operationally, he is responsible. And together with him, he has the 5 key functions to assist him. And so we unfold the responsibilities from the top right down. And when I say from the top right down, that includes management, that includes staff, member churches, partners, as I've said earlier. And then I'm not going to go on the compliance function, but needless to say, it is the National Ministry Leader who need to ensure and need to put a compliance function in place. And it's the Board of Governors that need to ensure that he is doing so. So that is really the policy that I'm bringing to you so that we are aware of what's happening. And then next year, we will have a complete policy that will be put in our records and the Constitution will make reference to it. Thank you. Any questions?
Can I just have a request? Please comply.
All right, guys, we're going to take a few questions. This is new to us. We live in a world of compliance, and it is our responsibility. Now, you ask, what has it got to do with the Baptist Union? What's it got to do with me as a Christian? We are called to be witnesses to Jesus Christ. And part of those witnesses that we do things that are ethically binding to us by the government, as long as the laws are in line with the scriptures and they don't go contrary to our belief system, we are expected to comply with that. It's biblical, and so we have to start on this road. And to have a good ethical witness as a Baptist Union. The other thing is it's only the first step. This will be, as Yolanda said, it's not policy from today. It will be brought in more complete form to the next assembly for introduction into the Constitution, parts of it, not fully, and then we'll unfold it from there on. But are there any questions? We can take a few questions from the floor if anybody's got a question.
To be compliant, I'll introduce myself again. Nathan Seal from Silvertown Baptist Church and chairman of the Western Cape. Yolanda, in the context of this being new to all of us, I think one of the probably most profound implications of the compliance will relate, for instance, to marriage officers, where the pastors are marriage officers. And with the new law in terms of the accreditation to be a marriage officer in relation to the new Marriage Act in terms of same-sex marriages and that kind of thing, I think we will need to understand the implications of why compliance is going to be so important if a pastor is even going to have the accreditation to be a marriage officer. And that accreditation doesn't come from the Baptist Union, but it comes from the government. And if a pastor is then averse to subscribing to the national law, the Baptist Union will have to step in terms of getting exemption for us, because if we are not compliant with the national law, we may then lose our accreditation. Thank you.
Yes, that is correct. Last, when I worked still with Pastor Yu on this when we worked with the Department of Justice, I do recall that they were very much still in favor of making sure that that the churches, I'm trying to find my words, that the pastors are able to, I'm not getting the words.
Act within your conscience, obviously.
That's the word, that they can act within their religious conscience. So they are working on that, and I know that our legal advisor, Cliff, is going to send out a document, because I know there's been more amendments, not amendments, but they are still busy with the draft. It's not law yet. They're wanting to make it law, but it's not law yet. On the other side, what's happening is, should South African law come into play that pastors need to marry anybody and everybody, the Baptist Union can decide to withdraw the names of the marriage officers. And you, as a pastor, you can then instruct the couple to go to the Department of Home Affairs and get married there, and then you can come back and you can do the ceremony at the church. That's the other option. But the Department of Home Affairs really cannot afford to lose all the religious marriage officers, because I think you make up at least 2/3 of all marriage officers. But I'm not too up to date with what is recently happening, but I know Cliff Marshall is going to send out a document, a document on the laws. Does that answer, Pastor Nathan? Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Mrs. Eilenfeld.
Hi, my name is Patricia Eilenfeld, and I'm speaking on behalf of Bethany Emmanuel. We currently within the BBN are working on compliance issues, and so is this the policy that is relevant for the Baptist Union? Will there be a model policy that will be sent to the churches that they can use to draw up their own, or does this policy cover the local church? This proposed policy cover the local church? Could you just clarify that for us?
If we look at the scope, thank you, Patricia. If you look at the scope of the policy, it includes the Baptist Union, Assembly, its members, local churches, etc. So, and it will form part of the, not form, but the Constitution will make reference to this policy. So it's like an umbrella. And then what we do in the church, you have to do what's practically right, but not going against what the policy is saying.
So can I just understand? So if we accept this policy, then it will become relevant or applicable to all our churches. So each individual church doesn't need to have a separate policy pertaining to what's in your policy document.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No, not necessarily, because it's like an umbrella policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
It's planned to bring it in as part of a constitutional clause or article, which will enforce, if the churches agree to it, that they will agree to comply with all the various compliance policies that are legal to that church as an autonomous body. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is Pastor Busiso Mkonazi from Esikaweni Baptist Church, KZN. Thank you very much, Yolanda. I'm a little bit concerned, sir. This is a very critical topic that we are dealing with. Somebody might go to jail. Now, I wonder, Yolanda, if even before next year, this could be maybe in our various networks, this be brought down to the level that it could be even discussed in our vernacular languages, because we are not all able to understand it in the language that it is presented. So I would love to see maybe it's either down there in our regions, this be brought down for discussion even before next year when it's brought forth. I will highly appreciate that.
So, you. That's a very good point. And look, this thing has been unfolded. It still needs to go down to association level, etc., etc. There has to be, and that's a very good point that's made. It'll be a minute made of it, that the language, because the language is legal very often, and it's not always understandable. So yes, we will make sure and we will take that into account as we unfold the process, certainly.
I think this is a very sensitive topic because, and I just want to highlight the fact, you know, some may have questions about how does it affect autonomy. So this is something that needs to be discussed, and there are many questions around autonomy, and I think what we really need is a clear definition on what is autonomy, what are its boundaries, etc. And that's all work that we have. We don't know it all. As you ask questions, the more we understand as well the needs. So thank you.